Hello and welcome to this lecture, and in this lecture we are going to talk something about recursion. So recursion is one of the interesting concepts in functional programming. So if you talk about recursion, recursion is nothing but a function which call itself. So basically when we have functions, we actually have two parts of the function. The first part is actually the function definition, which contains the code which the function has and which the function executes upon a call. And the other thing related to a particular function is the function call itself, which states that the function now needs to be called. Now in recursion, what happens is that we have a function definition, and within that function definition itself, we have a call to that particular function. So it is essentially a function calling itself within its body. So there could be multiple uses of using recursion in functional programming, and one of the usage of using recursion is to calculate the factorial of a number. So in this lecture we are going to learn what is recursion. We are going to actually carry out a recursive function, or we are going to write in a recursive code to basically calculate the factorial of a number. So now, even before writing the code for recursion, let's understand what a factorial of a number is. Now if you don't know what factorial of a particular number is, so let's say if you have a number like 3, then the factorial of 3 would be 3 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 1. So basically when we multiply 3 with 2 we have 6, and when we multiply 6 with 1 we have 6. So the factorial of 3 would be 6. So in a similar fashion you could calculate factorial of any number. So let's say you want to find out the factorial of the number 5. So factorial of number 5 would be 5 multiplied by one number less than 5, which is 4, multiplied by one number less than 4, which is 3, multiplied by one number less than 3, which is 2, and finally one number less than 2, that is equal to 1. So this is how we calculate factorial of any number. Now we are going to use recursion, and we are going to write in the code in Python to actually calculate factorial of a number. So let's first go ahead and define a function. So let's type in def factorial, and to this we are going to pass in a number like 3, 4 or 5 or something like that. So let's pass in the number as x, and in this we are going to write in the code which is actually going to carry out the factorial of that particular number. So if you talk about factorial, factorial is nothing but you take a particular number, you subtract one number from it, then you multiply that number, and whatever number remains, you again keep on subtracting 1 from each and every number and keep on multiplying that number with the result unless and until you have 1 at the end. So the stopping point in calculating factorial is basically when you encounter a value of 1. So the very first thing which you need to do in this function is that you need to check if we have encountered a 1 over here. So if we encounter a 1, that means we have to actually terminate the program. So here we type in if. So if x is equal to 1, in that case we want to return, so we return 1. Or else if this is not the case, that is if x is not equal to 1, in that case we actually want to calculate the factorial. So basically while calculating factorial of any number, what we do is that we keep on subtracting one number from the next number and then keep on multiplying that number with the result. So here you simply need to type in return, and what you essentially need to return is that you first need to take a number which is x, then you actually need to multiply that number with x minus 1. So here you actually need to multiply x with a number which is actually a factorial of one number less than x. So that means you need to pass in a factorial here, and to this factorial you need to pass in x minus 1. And the reason for that is because when you actually go ahead and calculate 5 factorial, that is nothing but 5 multiplied by 4 factorial. So here what we have essentially done is that we have used recursion, that is nothing but we have called this function factorial itself in the same function right over here. So now what is going to happen is that if you pass a value of 3 to the factorial, it is first going to check if the number is equal to 1. So in this case the number is equal to 3 and it is not equal to 1. Hence it is actually going to execute this code right here. And what this code is going to do is then it is going to take the value of x, which is 3, and then it is going to also pass in the same value 3 over here. So this is going to calculate the factorial of 2. So now in the second iteration, 2 gets passed over here. Again, this code is going to get executed, and this time we have 1. So that essentially means 3 multiplied by 2. And when the next iteration comes on, when x is equal to 1, the code actually returns us a value of 1. And that's how we are able to exit out of this recursion right here. So once you are done with this, we are good to go. So essentially we have written the code for factorial. Now the next thing which we need to do is that we need to call this function right here. So in order to call this function, simply type in factorial. And let's say we want to pass in the value as 5. Let's say we want to calculate the factorial of 5. And to store the result, you need to have some variable. So we will take a variable as result, and then finally print out the result stored in the result variable. So once you are done with this, you could save the code, and if you run this, as you could see, you will get the factorial value of 5 to be 120. And the reason for that is if you multiply 5 by 4, that comes out to be 20. If you multiply 20 by 3, that comes out to be 60. And if you multiply 60 by 2, the result comes out to be 120. So that's how you could use recursion in Python. And recursion is nothing but a function calling itself. So we have this function right here, and what we have essentially done is that we have called the function, which is the factorial function, within the same function right over here. So this type of functions are called as recursive functions when there is a function call in the function definition itself. So that's it for this lecture, and I hope you guys understood the significance of recursive functions, and also I hope you guys understood how to calculate factorial of any number in Python. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.